Hello guys, my name is Desmond and I welcome you to my lesson for today where we'll be looking at your mathematics. Ladies and gentlemen, please do allow me to say it is very much important that I say it is very much important because below what I'm about to say it's massively. Hey, massively important, ladies and gentlemen, that I say a day without learning something new, it's a day wasted. By so saying, please, honorable members, please do make sure that by the end of each and every lesson that I conduct, you learn something new. Very much important, ladies and gentlemen, over there. So without any waste of time, in today's lesson, what we'll be doing is to solve exam type of questions. So obviously, past 2 days, I've given you guys an introduction in relation to the functions. So in today's lesson, we do nothing but solving exam questions. So that's how it works. For those who are attending my lesson for the very first time, I give you a background on a specific chapter, and then from there, we spend much of our time solving exam type of questions. The reason to that is because at your respective schools, they will teach you some more. By the time when you get to your exams, you'll be knowing almost the theory and also how to tackle exam type of questions. Okay, so I've sent this in the group. F of x is equals to negative 2x squared plus 2, and g of x, which is equals to 2 to the exponent x plus 1, are the defining equations of graph F and graph G respectively. Okay, now here comes a question, the most important question that you should ask yourself. What type of functions are we dealing with over there? Based on what we discussed on yesterday's lesson, you will realize that you are actually dealing with this type of a function being a quadratic, and also which type? This type being an exponential. So now I'm going to focus on what I know regarding okay, I'm back again. I'll need someone just to... Rosie, how is it from your side? Is it clear now? Or is it still breaking?
So, yeah.
Okay, just remember, in case if it starts breaking or it becomes blurry, let me know immediately. So I was saying question 4 is what we'll be doing. As soon as we're done, we move on to the next question, being question number 5. We are doing the question paper that I sent in the group. So 4.1, it says write down an equation for the asymptotes of G. Equation for the asymptotes of G. Something that you guys need to remember is that we talked about asymptotes and axis of symmetry. So this is normally what you guys would confuse. Axis of symmetry is that one that cuts into 2 equal halves, but when it comes to an asymptote, In this case, we're talking about the asymptote of G. That's what the question wants. So normally, with regards to an equation of an asymptote, this is how you get it. So you see this value, it is the one that gives you an equation of an asymptote of an exponential function. So in simple terms, remember we have y, it's equals to let's say b to the exponent of x plus c or q, which is that vertical shift. So the q value, it is the one that gives you an equation of an asymptote for an exponential. So if, for example, you are having y is equals to 2 to the exponent x, what will be the equation of an asymptote for that one? Remember, if in maths you are having nothing, you know nothing means 0. So that means the q for this equation is equals to 0. So that means for an equation similar to that, if they say what is an equation of an asymptote, you just say y is equals to 0. That's it. But there, anyone who'd like to guess what will be an equation of an asymptote for that equation of G? I'm not sure if the message is still delivering, but I'll give you an answer to that question. You might need to expect such a question in your upcoming test. But what I'm saying is, when you give equations of an asymptote, it's either you say x is equals to whatever or y is equals to whatever. So you only give both x and y when you're dealing with hyperbola. But this one, since it's an exponential, you just say y is equals to 1. So that is your equation of an asymptote. And by so doing, for that question, you score yourself 1 mark. I'm not sure if there's anyone who's got a question before I move on to the next question. Any question? No. Okay. So, yes.
I have a question. G of x, is it a +1 or a -1? I can't see clearly. Or divide by 1.
Oh, it's a +1. So it's g
Plus
of
1.
x is equals to 2 to the exponent x plus 1. You just reminded me of something, honorable member. So remember, guys, in case if you are a learner and you've got a parent or a younger brother or whatever, what you can do, that question that was posted in the group, maybe take it a screenshot and then forward it to your parents' phone. Then you're going to have your phone where you watch what I'm writing there, another one where you look at the question paper, just so that in case if it's blurry and you're not able to see, you still have that question paper posted in the group. So those are some of the options that you can do. If you've got 2 devices, use a phone, and then the other one, it could be a tablet. Okay, so now 4.2, they say sketch the graphs of f and g on the same set of axes. Most importantly, clearly showing all intercepts with the axis, turning points, and asymptotes. So remember, guys, in case if you are given a function in a form of an equation, you can convert it in a form of a graph, which is what they want. Normally, if they give you information similar to that, they are most likely to ask you to sketch it. If it's sketched, they are most likely to say determine that sketch in a form of an equation. We will see some more different questions as we continue. But in this case, they want you to sketch. So this is the process that you follow when you sketch. Most importantly, you need to find what we call the x-intercepts and the y-intercept. So let's maybe start with the y-intercept, and then once we are done, we'll do the x-intercepts. But in this case, because we are having two functions, let's say here we'll do for f of x, and then this side will do for g of x. So we will also calculate the y-intercept. Y-intercept simply means where the graph touches the y-axis. So let's try to calculate. When you say the y-intercept, at the same time you must say that's where x is equals to 0. So let's just do for f of x, we'll finish and go for g of x. So this is what it means. Y-intercept, it's equals to, that's where x, it's equals to 0. Meaning, on the function of f, where you see x, you put 0. So that means you're having y, which is equals to -2. This is where I see x, you say squared, plus 2. Then you just punch the whole of that on your calculator. I'm suspecting it's going to give you +2. Can you quickly just confirm that? So that's how you calculate the y-intercept. It is always as easy as that. You just say y-intercept, x is equals to 0. So maybe let me make it a bit simple and do this so that you guys can have an idea of what we are actually doing there. So remember, it is actually the coordinates that we need in order to plot. So we said where x is 0, y is what? Y is 2. That's what we just did over there. So now the next thing that we need to do is to calculate the x-intercepts. The x-intercepts, you say that is where y is equals to 0. That means on that same equation where you see y, you put 0. F of x, if you remember, we said that's just a name because that function was set by Franco. So instead of saying y, because it's going to be y and not knowing which one is which, we used letter F for Franco. That means this one, it was set by Bra George. So now, that's why we're going to say where we see y, we just put a 0 there and say -2x squared plus 2. This is the reason why I did all the lessons that I did. It was to prepare you in these cases where you need to factorize. So you remember when I was saying Larissa is a person is Larissa. So this is a person is Larissa. Let's just nicely represent it and say Larissa is a person. So that means you rewrite it exactly as it is, but you just want to have that 0 on the right side so that you can easily factorize. So let's see. Someone might say, how about I remove that negative so that I have my equation in the standard form? So we can still divide everything by -2, just so that we remain with x squared. What will that be? I think it's going to be -1, x equals to 0. Remember, at this stage, this is not where I'm training you on how to factorize because we have done all those lessons. And there were some who took those lessons not serious, assuming that they know how to factorize. So just make sure, Bantubakiti, that you catch up all the previous lessons in case if what I'm doing there, it doesn't make sense. So now you are at that point where you can factorize. Maybe let me try to get a black marker. Let's see. If you remember, I did explain to say where you are having x squared and then you have -1. It's easier because when it's a minus there, that means it's going to be +1 on this side and then -1 on the other side. That's how you factorize that type of an equation, which means you're going to have your x, which is equals to 1. Because it's a quadratic, it means you're going to have 2x values. The other one is going to be -1. But maybe let me put this one to be -1 so that you know that you equated this to 0, then you transpose, it changes a sign. You equate this to 0, you transpose, it changes a sign, it becomes 1. So that means under f of x, we still have some more coordinates where x, it is -1, where y is 0. And again, you are having where x, it is 1, and then y, it is 0. The 0, it is that one. And then those x values, the first one is this one, the other one, it is this one. So you are done with f of x as far as the coordinates are concerned. All that we did, it was just for us to determine 1, 2, 3. And you will now understand why we needed those. It was because on Monday, I explained that for you to plot, you need the coordinates. That is why we had to calculate the coordinates so that we can be able to plot. So now, do the same for that. Remember, g of x, it's an exponential, meaning we can still say a y-intercept, that's where x is equals to 0. Meaning, on that equation of y, it's equals to 2 to the exponent x plus 1. Where we see x, we put 0. That means you're having 2 to the exponent 0 plus 1. If you punch this on a calculator, that to that is 1 plus 1 is 2. It's going to give you 2. Then you do the same. You now calculate the x-intercept. That's where y is equals to 0. That is the process when you given equations and they want you to plot. You need the y-intercept, the x-intercept. So let's see. That means for this function of g, what we have just done is to actually calculate the coordinates where, what is it, x is 0. We just saw that, what is it? No, y is 2. Y is 2. So now let's quickly try to check something and you will understand what's happening there. So let's see. Where we see y, now we put 0. So that means we're going to have 0 is equals to 2 to the exponent x plus 1. And then if we try to solve for x, you take that to the other side, it becomes -1. It's equals to 2 to the exponent x. So can you see? This cannot be further worked out. There's no way you can say 2 to the exponent something which will result in -1. And then that's where you can say not applicable. What does it mean not applicable? It means for this function, we do not have the x-intercept. What gives you the confidence? If you attended my previous lessons, you will remember that when it comes to an exponential type of a function, it's either you have this shape or that shape. It depends on something. But in this case, the graph itself it has shifted upwards by how many units? Remember, I said this value, it determines the vertical shift. So if this is the x-intercept and this is the y-intercept, so that means either this function or that function, it has shifted by 1 unit upward. So remember, that means you are going to have an equation of your asymptote there at where y is equals to 1. Then the function will therefore either do that somewhere there or do that somewhere there. Can you see? It will never, ever interact with that because it never cross or touch what is it? your equation of asymptote. So that's what gives me the confidence to say this does not have the x-intercept. So this is all that we needed in order for us to plot. So let me quickly remove all of this, but in your case, you won't remove, you will just move on to the next page. So remember, guys, I said to plot, you plot on a Cartesian plane. What is a Cartesian plane? This is what a Cartesian plane, let me just create some space there and do it a bit bigger. Let me do that. Cartesian plane has got the x-axis and the y-axis. Which one can I start with? Let me maybe start with this one, and then I'll sketch that one after. So what do I know? I've got that point. Can we try to plot that point? That's where x, it is obviously a -1, where y is 0. So that means we already have that as our first point. And then now, let's have a look at a point where our x value is +1. It is this point there. Let's look for that last point where x is 0 and then y is 2. This is where, on that line, this is where x is 0, but y being 2, obviously, it's going to be there. Ayanda, I'm not sure if you remember, we said if your a value is negative, you have a sad shape. A sad shape because your a value is negative. And most importantly, we said this is the cue that tells us more about the vertical shift, meaning your function was actually doing this, making a U-turn at the origin, but now it is shifted by 2 units upwards. That is why it is going to make a U-turn there at where y is equals to 2. And then because it is a sad shape, that is why it does that. Can you now see? That's how you easily plot that function. But most importantly, please make sure to tell us that this is the function of Bramafranco. Because if you don't, we won't know which one is which. So now, in order to sketch that one, the first thing that you need to do, it is to plot the equation of asymptote. That's what you do when you plot these two functions. Maybe let me do this and say at all the times when you plot a hyperbola and an exponential, these two last functions, you firstly start with plotting asymptotes. And then next, that's when you can plot the points. And something to remember, hyperbola has 2 asymptotes. Just add it to your notes. And then exponential, it has 1 asymptote. So that means you already expect a 1 mark under exponential for asymptote. And then you expect 2 marks under hyperbola for 2 asymptotes. Always check those questions. Under hyperbola, 2 marks because they want you to give the y and x. So under exponential, just 1 mark. Okay, so now let's plot our asymptote. We just notice that it's that one which is +1. So that is why you do it that way. The ghost the ghost axis. So you can just say this is where y is equals to 1, which is that one there. But now the question is, are we going to have a decreasing or an increasing function? That's where you go back to our notes where we said if we are having whatever b value our thing does that. If whatever b value, our thing does what. But from what I remember, we said if that b value is greater than 1, we have an increasing function. But if it is between 0 and 1, that's when it's decreasing. And we said an increasing function, this is what it does. Can you see? Starting from this lower level, can you see? It's increasing, and then it does that. Most importantly, make sure that your function does not touch or cross that equation of a asymptote, or that line of asymptote. It never does, it never will. I'm not sure if Muleboge is here. If she's not here, I'm not sure if there's a petty person who's here. In Pedi we say e rapala le asymptote. That's what it does. I remember some of our learners last year, they said, I'm not sure if it's in Zulu or which language, but they say iyasondela. Kushokuthi iyasondela kancane kancane kancane, but it never touch that line of asymptote at all the times. If you see your line crossing that, just know already it's a knot. Not just a knot, but a bigger one. So now, I think we have done almost everything. But one thing remaining, very, very much important, please remember to tell us that this is that function of George, so that we are able to differentiate and say, okay, this is the one for F and this is the one for a G. By so doing, Bantu Bagiti, that's how you score yourself your 6 marks. Possibly, you might score your mark there, and then your turning point there being 2. But remember, you need to show that here is 2, because that's what they said. Show the intercepts. So you also, maybe for the shape, get a mark there, and also for that asymptote, and also where it cuts that. And I'm not sure. Anyone who's got a question in relation to that? Bantu Bagit. I'm not sure if you guys are watching Scheme Sum there. I'll just be waiting for any possible question.
No questions.
Someone indicated no question. Last one to confirm before I conclude, all was clear.
No questions.
Okay. So now, yes, I'm not sure what to do because we might need that, but it's fine. Let me remove this portion so that in case if we'll be referring to those, we know we still have that the graph. So now let's quickly move on to the next question, which says, let's see, 4.3, write down the range of f. Write down the range of f. And this question is allocated 1 mark. I'm telling you now, Bantu Bagiti, it's in most cases where under function, especially, let me not specify, but questions which are normally allocated 1 mark are asymptote under this type of a function, and also the range under this type of a function. 2 marks will be allocated for those 2 asymptotes under a hyperbola. These are the easy marks. How do you determine the range of a function if you are given a formula or you have sketched it? So the range refers to the turning point. The turning point is actually the maximum value or the maximum y value of a function. Listen very carefully. The range is the maximum value of a function as far as y is concerned. So what is or maybe let me do this. If you are having, for example, a wave consolidating, let's say you are having a wave consolidating within the same range. So can you guys see? This is the range within which this wave is consolidating. So if we know what that value is and what that value is, we can easily tell the exact value in which that is consolidating. So in this case, can you see it's not a wave, but it's continuing in that direction, continuing in that direction. So that means the maximum y value of this, it's at its turning point. That's where you get the range of a parabola. And the range is either a positive y or a negative y. So maybe let me say a range, you normally have a positive y or a negative y. So can someone give it a try? What is the range for this function?
The range of this function is y, the element 2 to positive infinity.
Y, the element of, can you repeat that, honorable member?
2 to positive infinity.
Positive infinity. Kancane kancane uyavela. Who's that? I think it's Mitch or Michelle. Michi. Kancane kancane uyavela ntombo. But this type of an answer, the Michis, it's a bit tricky in a sense that because of that, you might get into a trouble. Because you either have positive infinity or negative infinity. But this is what I'm going to say. Let me give you an alternative, just in case if this is how your teacher at school will be teaching you. It's fine. Let me say this one. Hold on to this for now. I'll give you an alternative and you will tell me if it is easier or not. But this one, somewhere you got it wrong. But let's see. Let's maybe explore other possible options. So you either say y is greater than or is equals to, or you say y is less or it's equals to. And this is what I normally say. If you are having a said shape, you just have a y less or is equals to, then you give the y value. Otherwise, if it's a smiling shape, you just say y greater or equals to whatever the y value at the turning point. So let me say that turning point, that turning point. What is the turning point of that function of f?
2. It's 2.
2. Yes. So is it a smiling or a set shape?
It's a set
A
shape.
smiling shape.
Okay. Michi, I'm well aware that you're attending my lesson for the very first time today. Let me quickly explain. It's smiling if it's you, is sad if it's like that. And then if you draw that, that's when you notice that indeed it is a smiling shape. But this type, it's a sad shape. So that is why honorable members are saying it's a sad shape. Does it make sense, Michi?
Yes.
Okay. So obviously, since we're having it, that's why you're just going to say y is less or equals to the turning point. That's it. regarding that. So if you had, for example, something similar to that, then that's where you're going to have a y being greater or is equals to whatever the turning point. Maybe it's -3. So can you see? It's much easier than having to work it out in that format. If you had to work it out in that format, then you're going to say y is the element of, most importantly, you do this type of a bracket, the curvish one, where you say y is the element of a negative infinity. Why negative infinity? Is because this function, it continues up to infinity in the negative direction. Which direction? The y negative direction. It actually decreases. From where? From that maximum value of 2. But most importantly, this bracket is that one of the corners. If you remember, we said this one of the curvish, it's more like you're saying less than, but this one, it's more like you're saying less than or it's equals to. Of which, if you take this, that, and that, it saves you a lot of time and it is represented easily in that format. Michi, happiness honorable member, do you think it's going to save you some time working it out or learning that method?
Yeah, I think learning that method is gonna save me time.
Okay. So now let's quickly move on to the next question. So the next question says 4.4, determine the maximum value of h. Determine the maximum value of h. If h of x, let's see, if h of x, hey, kwenzeka ntoni apha, ngithi ngizama ubala lezi zinto lezi asivu. Okay, so h of x is equals to 3 to the exponent f of x. So in this question, they are talking about the maximum value. And when we talk about the maximum value, we are simply talking about the range, bantu bakithi. So that means something given similar to that. They are talking about h of x. So that means h of x is a new equation or a new function whereby this one is being modified. And how is it being modified? It's modified by saying 3 to the power of f of x. So you ask yourself this question. Now that you are having a maximum value for h of x being 3 to the power f of x, what is the maximum value of f of x, or what is the range for f of x? Is there anyone who knows what is the maximum value of f of x? Yes. It's 2. Is that 2? So the previous question is the one that helps us to answer this question. So what is 3 to the exponent of 2? Is it not 9? Bantu bakithi. So that means if you had to sketch or talk about h of x, that means it was going to make a U-turn at where, what is it? At where y is equals to 9. That is where it was going to make its U-turn. So be careful of how questions are being asked, because the next question is going to help you to answer the next question and so forth and so on. That's how it normally works under functions. So now I'm about to move on to that last question under question number 4. So let me remove all of that.
Sorry, sir, before you
Sorry,
move on,
sir. Please
how
don't
was
remove
it?
anything.
Yes.
I don't understand how you got that 9. Can you please repeat that?
The 9. Okay, Let's say they are saying h of x is equals to 3 to the exponent of f of x. Maybe let me try to make it easier. Who was that? Was it Anambi Chuma? I think that was you, honorable member. Let's talk. So on this question of 4.4, you tell me, are they talking about sweets there, honorable member? Yebo noma cha?
Sorry, sir.
So on that question of 4.4, where they say whatever, the question says determine the maximum value of h if h of x is equals to that. Don't worry that much. It's not a tricky question. It's going to help you to understand. But listen to me. Are they talking about cars on that question? No. Are they talking about a house? No. Are they talking about a light? No. But what is the key word there? Is it a marker? No. But the key word is a maximum value. Maximum value. As a mathematician, you know very well that when we're dealing with functions, the moment we start talking about maximum value, it simply refers to the range. I'm not sure if Chumi, you understand just what I've explained there.
I understood, sir. I did understand.
Yes. So now that means they actually want to know the maximum value of this new function, which is as a result of us modifying that function. So the question is, since the keyword is maximum value, what is the maximum value of f of x? If you don't understand it as a maximum value, what is the range of f of x? I'm not sure if you remember what that is, the chumis.
It's 2, sir.
Yes, so that is why you're going to say 3 to the exponent of 2. You punch it on a calculator, it gives you 9. So that means a h of x has a maximum value of 9. It's more like they're saying, let's say, what is the maximum value of a chumi of x when we are having, let's say, 4 to the exponent of h of x. Yeah, I think this one is going to make it interesting. Here comes a question. They say determine the maximum value of a chumi of x, which is equals to 4 to the exponent h of x. This is what you ask yourself. Since they're talking about maximum values or the range, what is the maximum value or the range of h of x? Anyone who knows? Hmm? Michi, what is the maximum value of h of x? We calculated it, Bantubagiti. It is 9. So
It's
you are going to say
9.
4 to the exponent of 9. You punch it on a calculator. What are you getting there? Whatever that you get, it is the maximum value for h of x. We can still continue and do for Michi of x. It's going to be, let's say, if they say 2 to the exponent chumi of x, you just need to know what is the maximum value of the chumis. You substitute, punch on a calculator, and you get an answer. I'm pretty much sure that it now makes sense. So now, let me remove all of that and move on to the next question, which says, what transformation does the graph y is equals to f of x undergo in order to obtain the graph y is equals to 2x squared minus 2. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Sure. I'm telling you guys, this question, it needs understanding. And Hamisa, I'm pretty much sure that you do have an idea of what is going on over there. But please do allow me to make use of this opportunity to explain something to our honorable members, especially those who neglect grade 10 lessons. You might find that you're in grade 11 or 12, also in grade 10, and being confused by this question. But I'm telling you now, you just need to know the basics in order to answer this question. It's going to make sense when I explain. So remember, what is the equation of f of x? Is it not negative 2x squared plus 2? It is. So they are just asking the transformation where this has to undergo in order to look like that. So you obviously need to know that because of you having a negative a value, the shape is going to be set. And because of this, it means it has shifted upwards by 2 units upwards. So that is why it looks like that. But now, for it to change and be like that, that means we are now having a positive same value. That means it has to be smiling. And most importantly, because of that negative 2, it means it now shifts 2 units downwards. So if you have an idea of what I'm saying, it's more like this same function, which was making a U10 at 2, it now makes a U10 at negative 2, which is that point there. And because of that 2 being a positive now, it means it's smiling. Nothing changes. What changes is only those signs. That is why this function will therefore end up looking like that. Exactly the same as that one, but it has just transformed. So the question is, this black function, has it reflected about the x-axis like that, or has it reflected about the y-axis like that? Anyone to answer that question? That's how you answer that question.
Reflected above the x-axis.
Yes. Yes, Bantu Bakiti. Bokamuso Mohapi. It's more like they're saying, think of this as a wire. And then you have this pole and that pole. Or think of something, you can just create a story. For this function to transform in order to look like that, did they swing it about that, whereby that top side now becomes this side and those arrows point upwards about the x-axis, or did it swing about the y-axis for it to look like that? It has obviously reflected about the x-axis. So that is why in order to answer that question, you just say reflection about the x-axis, or what is it? It would have reflected about the x-axis. By so doing, you score yourself 2 marks. So that is why, Michi, I always say, every time when I do a lesson, do not care whether it's a grade 10 lesson, grade 11 or 12, just attend. Because everyone who attended, they fully understand what I'm explaining here. Someone might be confused and wondering what's going on over there. Remember, if you attend all my lessons, you will understand everything in all of my lessons. So quickly, let's move on to that next question. I understand grade 12s will be attending live sciences at 8 o'clock. So remember, guys, if you feel like you were lost or it feels like you're lost, You still have an opportunity to catch up. This lesson is being recorded. It's going to be posted tomorrow. You catch up, you catch up, you catch up, you catch up, you catch up. You develop some questions. Tomorrow you can ask those questions. Don't worry if you feel like you want to ask, but you don't know how to ask or you don't know what to ask. Make sure to catch up where I started with this chapter, and then from there you will have some. Okay, so the sketch below shows f and g, the graphs of f of x. It is given there being 1 over x minus 1, and we have another one which is g of x being equals to ax plus q, respectively. The same points a. Maybe let me do these. So they're saying points A. Let me do that. Just so that it's clear and all of you guys can be able to refer to that. If you're not able to see, don't worry. You will still get that in there. So points A being -1 and -4 and B being